Hello everyone and welcome to my Loom'Ithar Mythic Guide. So this boss is a lot more tuned than Heroic or than the other Mythic bosses really that you've done. So the mechanics aren't hugely different on this. It's just a case of depending on damage and healing and stuff, it can be quite tight and it hits a bit hard, but dealing with it is quite easy. So what we'll do is, same as normal, you hero on pool here because you don't want phase 1 to last that long and you don't want the sticky webs to be all over the room. And phase 2 you get a small damage amp, and then you run your standard 4 healers, 14 DPS, 2 tanks. What we'll do is we'll go through the assignments and show you how and what's optimal to set these up and why that's optimal. And then I'll just go through the new mechanics that are on the boss fight, okay? So yeah, let's go through the assignment sheets first and what you need to think about there. Okay, so the assignments. So you have 2 assignments. You have the Pylon soak assignments, which we'll go through. It's the mythic mechanic where essentially there's now a pylon. If the line between the pylon and the boss hits the boss, it does damage to everyone. If someone stands in front of it, they soak it, they get a stacking debuff, goes up to like 16, so you want to have 2 players that split it. Okay, so the way that we set it up is you've got these marks here. You can see, you can edit them if you want. We use Viserio and we use Liquid, okay? Which I'm sure you're all aware of, but yeah. So just to go through it, these are where we put our marks. These points here are where the pylons are going to spawn. So this is star. We want our tanks here because essentially we start at skull and we move around. So all the grey stuff will be around here. So the tanks will start aiming here and move around, and then being a star makes that the easiest. You also want to make sure that you have melee first and ranged second. The reason being for that is that when the tangles spawn and they're hit by the tank, the pylon is about halfway through, and then you need to hit the ads. So you don't want melee doing the second soak and just standing there not being able to hit the ads. You want them to get off the pylon soak and get to the ads and start hitting them. So melee first and range second. If you have too many melee, it will become a problem, so don't bring too many. If you have evokers, it's good to pair them with a range and let them go first because they've got the short range and they generally do struggle in this fight to hit the tangles. So if you put an evoker second, don't expect them to hit an ad and don't shout at them if they don't. A lot of players put both tanks on star on both things. We decided it wasn't really working for us, so I hit the first tangle, so I'm with a range player, and that's why there is a range player first, because I hit the tangle. I can't soak then. I come back and I do the last part of the soak. Doesn't mean I don't hit ads, but it doesn't matter, it's tank damage. And our range player takes the first part of the soak. And it's the opposite here. Imp hits the second tangle. So they soak first, and once I come back, they will run over and do the second hit of the tangle. And then we have a range player to take over from them. Okay, you can just do tanks and tanks, and that's not a problem if you want to do it. The way that this works is you have 1 pylon spawn anywhere in the room. Okay, and then you break the tangles. Okay, and then next set of tangles that come in from the outside, you have 2 pylons spawn, so it could be any of these 2, okay? So not everyone is doing the soaking every time. The weaker will call even numbers and then call odd numbers. So you'll have 1 pylon somewhere in the room, but it'll tell everybody to soak, and it's just your responsibility to look around and make sure if the pylon has spawned on purple and star, those players are soaking it and they know, okay? It's not going to tell you to soak when your specific one is up. It's just going to tell you to soak on your roll, whether that's odd numbers or even numbers. So just to explain the odd and even a little bit more, it basically goes, odd is number 1 set of pylons, it will tell that group to soak. Even is number 2 set of pylons, it will tell that group to soak. Then you run out, you come back in, you're back to odd again. And that's all that is. It's just stopping the stacks getting too high on one group. So you can't just do it with 2 players, you need 4 per pylon, basically. The second one's really easy. It's just a frontal assignment. You can leave this blank and it will automatically give players the soak that they're doing. We hard did it so we could, manage who was soaking and knew that before we got involved. But yeah, let's go through and what these abilities actually look like now, okay? Okay, so getting straight into what soaking the pylon looks like, you'll see on your screen, it tells you where you're going and what you're soaking and when you're soaking it. But actually our player here is the second to soak. So what they're doing is they're on green. You can see the green marker. They let their melee do the first set of soaks. As soon as the ad set spawns, that melee goes off and starts DPSing them, and the range player takes over. It is that simple. You don't need to overthink it. You just go and you do your soak, okay? Sometimes people that are tanks take over just because they can take extra stacks and it's less dangerous for when you're breaking your tethers. The tethers are nothing new. They happen in Heroic, but they hit a lot harder on Mythic, okay? So you'll be wanting to watch your frames and making sure that anyone that's getting to sort of above 10 stacks of the tether and has been also soaking the Pylon is getting an external, and you're just going to have one person sort of keep an eye on that and call it out if required, or your healers just keep an eye on it. If they've got both debuffs, generally you're going to want to give them an external, okay? So just to be extremely clear, you can see up by green, this is exactly what a Pylon spawning looks like. So there, and you can see that we've got 3 actives. There's 3 purple beams at this point in time. Okay, so that's what they look like. That's what you're going to want to soak, okay? Okay, so just very quickly showing you that there's 2 spindles that you need to hit in Mythic now. So you can see that I aim towards Skull. Like I said, we're going that way. So I aim for my first spindle there. The tank can taunt off during that cast. They aim for the second spindle. You have 2 to kill. DPS needs to swap straight away so you can get out in time, okay? So it's exactly the same as Heroic. You just both need to hit one now, and your DPS needs to be switching to those ads straight away, because if they're not, you're going to die to the root and to the stun, okay? And then just showing that together with the soak. So we actually accidentally taunt early here, and so the beams are done the opposite way around, but still the same thing stands. So you can see up the top here, this is where my soak is, and where I'll need to go after I'd done my frontal, if I'd done my frontal first, but due to the aggro we didn't, and that's where I would be aiming for the spindle. So what I'd do is I'd get this spindle, then I'd move over to star. What actually ends up happening here is we taunt early, and the other tank does it, and then I do the other one. But the same thing happens. I still hit the second spindle, and then I run over to help my guy soak in, and I still get up to about 6 or 7 stacks, so they weren't left too long, okay? And that's just what it looks like as a tank for that. So just a tip for going into second phase, if you're at about 53%, you can just push. When sort of the tangles are coming in, you can just push instead of doing the tangles. Obviously, you still need to do the beams. Don't forget the beams, because if they start hitting the boss, you'll just die, right? But you get 50% and the tangles are just about spawning, you can just push, okay, into the next phase. You don't need to worry, because everything will reset. So then getting into the new phase. So what we do here, you can see, is I will take the boss round to about halfway where the crap was already on the floor. So we're moving into the new stuff, but at the start we still deal with some of the bad stuff, and that's because that puddle isn't quite as big as it will get in the middle, so you still have a little bit more space around there. Depending on your DPS, you might need to start further around if you've not, if you think it's going to last a bit longer, and then so you've got the free space for longer, okay? You can see that the weak aura basically just does all the work for you if you're using liquid. Even if you're using an S, it'll do the same. It'll just tell you when to soak and when not to soak. The most crucial part about this is don't double stack these, okay, and give the first group room to move. So there was one thing that we were struggling with, and it was, overlapping, not enough space. And then we changed one thing where essentially I would call, okay, this is my melee group, because melee group would generally first. We would get on top of me and we'd soak. And then I would tell the ranged on the soak, move round, move round, move round, okay? They would all move around, and then the second tank would taunt the boss and move it towards the ranged. So they'd do the pushback here, and then the second tank would taunt it and move it towards the ranged. And then there was plenty, there was much more space. The melee weren't trying to be penned in, the range could move around, and no one was scared about getting back to the boss as such, because we're always moving towards the place that you've moved to. So again, here you can see melee right in the tight corner, shouting at the range to move, 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 move. Get as wide as you can ranged. Okay, they do it. They spread out pretty well. Melee have got lots of space there. Then the boss moves towards the range. Okay, so no worries there. That's basically all P2 is. It's just a race for space and not griefing each other. And if you do that well, you'll kill it. Just one final thing to mention right at the end, when you're on the last couple %, if you are losing people, it's better for someone to go into a soak twice and not give the boss a shield, because on Mythic, if you have less than 5 players, the boss gets a shield, than to give the boss a shield. So if you're really, really low digits and all of one group are dead, the other group, people with immunities or with big CDs, should just go in, try and survive, and just don't give the boss a shield, and see if you can just sort of struggle through the last couple of %. Okay. So as this boss goes on and we get more and more gear, it will become a very, very simple boss. It's difficult now because of the tuning and how tight it is, but that'll get easier and easier, and has already, got far easier for the 3rd week. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching. As always, I really appreciate everybody that watches and all those people that help me. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.